you very much.
Why did it take 11 years for you two to get back together?
Well, we hated each other so much in the beginning.
It was hard to overcome the hate.
We had to run away. No, I think a combination of reasons, really. We had lots of conversations about the possibility of working together again, and I think we both just felt that thing hadn't really come along. But we also knew that whatever it was, whatever that piece of material might be, it had to be completely different to Titanic. And it took 11 years, I think, just to both feel the same way about a piece of material, to both react to it in a very emotional way, and to feel that we could use the history that we have together and the trust and the friendship that we've developed over the years, and really have that play a large part in our portrayal of Frank and April Wheeler. And,
when you saw the script, you knew it was right.
I really did. You know, I read the script and was just blown away by the fact that it hadn't been turned into a movie already, number one, but secondly, the power of the story, the clarity of every single character in this piece. It's so solid. The dialogue was absolutely brilliant, and you know, and quietly inside myself, I did think, okay, maybe Leo and I could do this together. And then my next thought was, wow, I wonder if Sam would direct it. And I still am kind of really blown away by the fact that it all came together like this.
You need to watch out what you wish for.
Maybe I do.
Yeah. And you saw this and said, here it is. Or convinced me.
Well, I had met with Sam initially about the project, but this was really something that Kate had been shepherding for a long time and really kept her eye on for a long period of time. You know, it wasn't a very successful novel when it came out, and I think the people who had the rights really wanted to get the proper people involved to make that sort of transition into cinema a good one, because it could have been butchered. And after reading the novel, as interesting as the script was, I mean, the novel just lent itself so completely to actors. I mean, here you have this tremendous amount of subtext. I mean, Yates was able to sort of channel into each one of these characters' minds in a way that I've never ever seen before, and it was kind of revolutionary and groundbreaking. So when I got to read the book after reading the novel, after reading the script, I just said, wow, look at this plethora of stuff that I can sort of tap into, and all the actors can tap into while making this movie.
That's what an actor looks for.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's the stuff that you essentially have to make up yourself when doing a movie, and that's complicated work, and it takes a long period of time, and you're not always necessarily the best writer in your own right. You know what I mean? You have to imagine these things when you put them up on screen. So Yates gave us like the most tremendously complex characters to play that were multifaceted and not necessarily. You know, the sympathy switches from each character to the next. You never know sort of who to relay, put your trust into, and that's disconcerting and makes the whole project very interesting.
Just the trailer gives you some sense of the universality of what they're talking about. I mean, the notion of everybody going through a life of asking about, is this what it's all about? Is this what I expected? You know, and how do you deal with either the sense of fulfillment or the sense of disappointment?
Yeah, it's really interesting, actually, now that we're in this position now where we get to talk about this film and the experience of making it, but also the story and what it means to people, and this chord that it's striking with people. You know, it is set in the 50s, but it really does have this sort of universal theme that translates to any period of time. You know,
any kind of lives.
Any kind of life, absolutely. You know, you're only happy if you're happy deep down inside of yourself. And the truth is, every single character in this film is looking for that happiness, you know, wanting to have those questions answered for them. And, you know, it's been so interesting to hear people say, wow, you know, I went home and I did sit there and have a scotch and think to myself, is this the life that I wanted?
Or should I go to Paris?
Or should I go to Paris?
Blow my brains out?
Yeah, and do I have the courage to change it and do anything about it? You know, but it really does make people think. And as an actor, that's one of the great things about this job. It's the actor's privilege to attempt to make people think.
And to tackle great material.
Yes, absolutely, and really get your hands as dirty as you can.
Was there any part of Sam that said, I've done this? I have done suburban life before?
Yeah, he did say that, didn't he? I mean, he was very... He was very honest about that, you know, early on. He said, look, there's no point in me pretending that I haven't made a story set against a suburban backdrop before. But to him, it was such a different story, such a different period of time, and the characters are so wildly different to the characters in American Beauty. And he is just fascinated by the human condition. And in this particular case, you know, the plight of Frank and April Wheeler, who are, you know, such extraordinary characters, but at the same time, as Leo was saying, unbelievably complex and complicated, and also trying to stay together. You know, this is a story about two people who will do whatever they can to find what it was that they had when they first met. They're not trying to pull away from each other.
They're dealing with their own reality at the same time, trying to...
Absolutely, absolutely. And
their own honesty, I think.
That's right, and the honesty that they share as a married couple, it ends up resulting in this incredible cruelty between the two of them. I mean, we got to be so mean to each other, Leo and I, and it was great. It was so great, wasn't it?
I was just going to sit here and see how you react to that.
He loved it more than I did. Charlie.
Did you?
I did.
Well, you mean engaging in the cruelty that the script demanded?
Well, it was one of the first things about the screenplay, which I immediately said, well, I really cannot wait to do those sequences with Kate, because when you develop a sort of, you know, friendship with somebody over the years, there's just a trust factor there. We both know that we have the best intentions for each other, but we also know that we can sort of push each other's limits. And there's probably no other actress out there that I would feel as comfortable sort of attacking. And I know she could give every bit of it right back to me. So I kept saying during the production of the film, I can't wait for these sequences. And so much of the movie was about what was left unsaid between two people. And Sam really set this movie up like a stage play, almost like, you know, we were kind of living these people's lives out. I don't know, it was a great release, so to speak.
And for me, you know, just to continue with that thought, you know, for me as an actress, working alongside my wonderful friend over there,
who wants to test your limits.
But it was some of the most exciting acting I've ever seen in my life. It really, really was. And being there for Leo in the off-camera during some of those very difficult, heightened emotional scenes between the two of us, it was very hard for me not to cry, just because it was really upsetting for me to see him go to that place and to be so moved by what he was doing, and also to see him literally do things with his face and as an actor that I have never seen him do before in any of his performances, or as a human being. And I remember saying to him, I seriously, you just did things with your face that you've honestly never done before, and I'm very freaked out right now and have to go sit down. But it was exciting for us to, you know, just to explore the endless possibilities, and, you know, I think... that's why, you know, it's easy for us to talk about.
Does what she's saying resonate with you?
I have to be honest and say I never know. I think we both share the same sort of need to do a good job. We want to give the best possible performances that we can. We work very hard at what we do, but whatever suspends that disbelief for an audience, whatever makes an audience member feel like, oh, I believe that, and all those factors that are involved, I'm still yet to figure out, because that formula is something that is intangible. You never quite know what will be off-putting towards people, and I've never really discovered that. You just look for the best possible, you know.
But is part of the goal you're reaching for is to make the character believable?
Absolutely.
So they see nothing but the character.
Well, all you essentially do, I mean, all the research that you do beforehand, all the conversations that you have, all the rehearsal, all the thinking about the lines, the changing of the lines, all this stuff is, you know, a desire to find some sort of emotional truth within that character, and that's all you consistently do 24 hours a day when you're working. I mean, that's it. And it's sort of, like I said, it's a formula that I don't think anyone truly understands, because when I see a movie, there could be one of 2,000 factors that make me say, oh, I'm watching a movie. I don't have that suspension of disbelief. I can't sit there for 2 hours and say, I can't forget that element of that film. And it could be a piece of set decoration. It could be, a piece of terrible acting, terrible directing. It could be a combination of anything, or the storyline as a whole, or what one character does. So who knows? And that's what we're constantly attempting to do with actors or people in this industry, is that try to find that one little gem where that chemistry is right.
You know that you can push her to her limits. What does that mean?
Again, I have no idea. No, you know what it is?
Just know you enjoy it.
People use that.
It makes you better.
People use that term shorthand. Is there a shorthand between you two people, or do you guys?
Yeah.
What it is the ability to know that I'm not going to insult this person if I tell them the truth. If we talk about the material and I say this scene sucks, I'm not going to insult her, or you weren't that great in conveying what I think you were trying to convey, or you were.
You are, or you're not going to say that?
Well, you know what I'm saying? We were able to do that, and we took advantage of that friendship. We really took advantage of the fact that we know each other on such a, for such a long period of time. We know we have the best intentions for each other. We took advantage of that for this one. We
did, and I was actually sort of thrown by how, I don't know, sort of psychic I sometimes felt of you. I would see Leo try something in a take, and I would, as he was delivering a line, I could see him saying the line right to me and thinking, this isn't working at all. And it was brilliant. And I would say to him afterwards, you didn't think that worked, did you? And he would say, no. What? How would you know that? I was like, babe, come on. And by the way, it did completely work. But then in the same breath, we were also able to say to each other, but go back to doing that thing you did 2 takes ago, because that really worked for you. But we don't have, just to go back to what Leo was saying, I don't think either of us particularly have a very powerful radar of whether what we're doing is good or very good, as you were saying. It's about being real and more real, and sometimes you can have a sense of, yes, my God, I don't know who I am in this moment because something happened to me just then, but you don't know if it's good, bad, or ugly. I mean, you honestly don't. And there were times when you'd be doing a take and you'd stop in the middle and go, no, let me start again. And I would say, what are you talking about? Just don't cut, go, keep going. And you would do the same thing with me. And as Leo said, we were able to rely on each other and trust each other's judgment in those moments when we sometimes didn't know whether what we were doing was
It's just great to have somebody after you do a take to say, how was that? Was that crap?
Do I really suck? You suck, right? I really suck. No, you don't.
You're okay. And you could only do this between the two of you because there's a relationship, there's an experience, there is a respect, and therefore you are more likely to be willing to fly without a net.
Yeah, that's exactly it. I mean, I think we, in many ways provided that safety net for each other, but more importantly, Sam really was this unbelievable support mechanism for all of us, and the way that he rehearsed the actors, the way that he brought us all together as a company. I mean, it didn't even, to use the word the cast or the talent, just doesn't even occur to me in this instance. We were a company of people. He brought us together like he would his company of actors in a theatre, as Leo was just saying. We rehearsed for, I think it was over 3 weeks, like quite a long time, and in
Are these just readings around a table, or actually doing scenes?
Literally, as we're doing now.
Right.
Lots of coffee, lots of cigarettes, and lots of pieces of paper and script everywhere, and everybody feeling free to talk about their characters, each other's characters, this scene, bits from the book that we were sad to lose, being able to have the conversation with Sam and the screenwriter Justin Hayth about why they had chosen to leave certain things out, understanding it from their perspective, and them encouraging us to tell us what our perspective was. And it really was a collaborative effort, and these bonds were bound in that rehearsal room, and then Sam did this other wonderful thing that Leo has talked extensively about, which is he shot it in sequence, in as much as we could, with the exception of all the work at the Knox Building, which is Leo's, Frank Wheeler's place of work. It was shot in story order, so by the time we got to those big difficult scenes at the end, we were so ready to go, and that was intentional on Sam's part.
Would you do more of that if you could? Have them shoot it in sequence?
Oh, it's tremendously helpful.
Yeah.
It really is, because there's always that unknown period as an actor when you're entering, these film roles where you have so many questions that are yet to be answered, and to live, out a sort of microcosm of their life in sequential order. All these questions sort of become answered as you're trying to portray this person's life. And, I think it would have been a terrible disservice, certainly in this movie, to do any of these end sequences, any of them, towards the beginning of the film, because we just didn't have a deep understanding of who these people were yet. There's only so much you can obtain from the book or the screenplay, but to experience it, to live it out, is a necessity, and that comes all from Sam Mendes' theater experience and his ability to work with actors and his knowledge of what actors need. And he would ask very interesting, penetrating questions right in the middle of doing a take.
Like what?
Like, walking to your car, and I remember one instance walking in my car going to work, and I sort of look back, and I have a sort of look of disillusionment on my face, and Sam goes, "Well, what do you think he's really feeling right now?" I said, "Oh God, well, I thought he was a little sad, but why? Why do you feel like he feels that? Is he connected with her yet? Oh, maybe he isn't. Oh," and then so it makes you, he's not necessarily directing you, but he's making you sort of get this, sort of self-discovery about who this person is, and saying, "Oh wow, I didn't think of it that way. Okay, I need to re-ask myself that question." There's a sort of immediate response that you have as an actor to what you're supposed to do, but when you have somebody asking you the proper questions, it's that fine-tuning that makes, I think, a good performance.
Yeah, that's an amazing skill to have, to make you want to ask questions, to get deeper inside.
But it absolutely is, and it's also unbelievably clever on Sam's part, because what it does for the actor is it makes them own their character more than the director and more than any other actor in the piece. And he absolutely encouraged that from the word go. It's your character. What do you think? Only you know how this should be played.
You've invested more into this one person than anybody.
I can explain this line to you. I can tell you what I think it means. But at the end of the day, none of that matters. You know, only you know, you go. And it also gives you a huge amount of confidence as an actor too. At the end of the day, actors are very strange human beings. We're extremely pathetic and very needy.
What are you talking about?
It's true.
Wait, stop. Strange, pathetic.
Well, let's think about it. We go to work every day and we go to work every day and we pretend to be somebody else. What the heck is that?
Is that strange or pathetic or both?
It's a combination of, we can all be extremely needy.
And everybody in this audience watching this is saying, I'd like to be her, or I'd like to be him. Not strange or pathetic.
But
I want to be.
Sam did this wonderful thing of boosting the confidence levels. He really did.
Boosted the confidence levels.
Yeah, and what happens to an actor when your director makes you feel very, very powerful is you are so unafraid to try anything, number one, but number two, you just don't care about who's watching, looking stupid, making mistakes, tripping up, trying an idea that just doesn't work. I would sometimes say things to Sam and think, man, he's never going to go for this, and I would say, can I just try one that's a little bit, etc., etc., and he would say, yeah, try it, absolutely, try. You never know until you try. And sometimes some of the most spontaneous moments come out of an absolutely off-the-wall idea that I myself, perhaps with other directors, wouldn't have the confidence to say, can I just try one like this? I know it's kind of crazy. Nothing to Sam was crazy, nothing at all. And for me, just as his wife, one of the most rewarding things about the experience of working with him was actually watching him with everybody else, observing him with the other actors. He was very different with Leo to the way he was with me. He was so tender and dear, wasn't he, with Kathy? Absolutely. He was just amazing with Kathy, and he sort of adapted himself like a great teacher. He sort of adapted himself to the needs of every different individual child, in the way that every child is different.
The kind of psychologist who understood
absolutely
their being. How often does something like this come along for you? Did you see a lot of properties that have all this potential?
It is a literary masterpiece, so it's a throwback to when that stuff sort of mattered, and that's mattering less and less in today's day and age, So it is rare. It's extremely rare, and it's, like we've been talking about, it was like doing a theater production. It was like a piece of actor's studio work. It was a different genre of film than we're used to. Here are two pretty pathetic, self-indulgent people at the end of the day.
These are the characters.
These are the characters. I mean, I think they're striving for happiness. I think that, as a matter of fact, April's character is the only heroic one in this story. I think my character is tragically unheroic. He does not have the courage to lead the life he wants to.
He's unheroic because he, as we saw and we'll see again, he's there simply saying, look, I work 10 hours a day, I'm trying to make things okay, and you see I'm doing my best, and it's not easy, and I don't like my work, and she's heroic because she says, let's go to Paris.
To me, I felt like all he wanted to do inevitably at the end of the day was be patted on the head and told, good boy, you're doing a good job. You know what I mean? Like any man would, you're providing for your family and your children, and you're doing a good job, and I love you for that. That's all Frank really wanted at the end of the day, but he didn't have the courage to do anything more. He was his father's son. He worked at the same job. He was unhappy probably with his life and his existence there, but didn't have the courage to take that, had that one chance to correct that, and she did. She was willing to sacrifice everything, and that, to me, about the character was what I found the most intriguing and the most fun. I mean, if you were about my character, if you were to make up a story like this in today's era, say in the suburbs, there would have to this couple would have to win the lottery or have accidentally killed somebody and stuffed them in their garage, and there would have to be some explosive element to it to make it work. It wasn't a psychoanalysis of two people that are, you know, trying to find happiness but are on two different courses in life and are trying their best to retain what they once had.
But did the character see her as heroic or not?
It depends on how you look at it, you know. I mean, when I first read the novel, I thought it was so much about the time period, 1950s, post-World War II, this great migration to the suburbs, what the idyllic, the iconic American family represented, the role of the man and the woman in the household, the man providing, the woman staying home, being the housewife. This is the beginning of, like, you know, prescription medication, that thing, wife swapping, drinking, all this stuff, and it was from the confines of the suburbs. I thought that was the main theme. All that, when we did the movie, systematically got stripped away. I mean, it became more and more about two people alone in a room trying to figure their life out and desperately understanding that it's not working. And that to me, at the core, is what, like Kate was saying, made this novel so timeless and such a literary masterpiece, because you can read it now and, you know, and have a deep emotional connection to all these characters, and there's no one clear-cut, you know, person that you have sympathy with, right? I mean, it shifts.
Absolutely. I was very struck by in the screenplay that Justin Hayes, you know, this is the other thing. Justin Hayes is a young man. He's like our age. I mean, he's 34. I think he's the same age as you, and somehow he understood this material so intrinsically, and he did this wonderful thing rhythmically with the screenplay of, you never feel as though you're supposed to be focusing on any one character. You feel as an audience member that you're absolutely allowed to sympathize with both of them simultaneously and at different times too. So in one scene, you can be thinking, oh, my God, you know, poor April. All she wants is possibility in life. She wants something to hope for. And there's her husband having an affair with this young secretary. And, you know, and she can't see it. She's blind to all of this stuff. And then in the next moment, you think, oh, my gosh, poor Frank. You know, here's April saying, you know,
you're not a man unless
you're not a man. Look at you and tell me how you can call yourself a man. And it's this sort of push-me-pull-you feeling that it swings and roundabouts throughout the movie. And that makes the character, I think, all the more compelling and dynamic and ultimately engaging.
Did you see her as heroic?
I did, yeah. I absolutely did. You know, they both of these characters are an incredible combination of both strength and weakness. I think that Frank is weaker than April, and we've talked about this a lot. April is ultimately the victim of her own strength.
Because she has more courage and she's more willing to change.
It's to do with courage, absolutely, and it's to do with not only a willingness to change, but a desperation for change. You know, she has no possibility for change or hope or unpredictability in her life, you know. This was not the life that she wanted, and she says it to Frank, we can't go on pretending that this is the life we wanted.
Roll tape, here's a scene.
Is this you?
Yeah. You've been to Paris?
I've never really been anywhere.
Well, maybe I'll take you with me then, huh? I'm going back the first chance I get, I tell you. People are alive there, not like here. All I know, April, is I want to feel things. Really feel them.
I think you're the most interesting person I've ever met.
Ain't that a lie?
she was lying big time, wasn't she?
Oh, that's a shame.
She didn't know a mundane existence that was set forth from those
thought you were
comments.
glamorous and bohemian. But no, you were Mr. Boring.
There's something to that, too. And
there definitely is.
Life is not exactly how you perceived it at first meeting.
No, absolutely not.
The most interesting man I've ever known.
Yeah, the most interesting person I've ever met. You know, the truth is, I think in that moment she absolutely meant it.
Of course she did.
Absolutely in that moment meant it. You know, but there's an interesting backstory for April in the novel, which was shot actually and was going to be used in the film as flashbacks when she was a child, and the same with Frank's character, flashbacks to when he was a child. And tonally, Sam felt that it was unnecessary. He didn't like the feeling that the audience was being told that, you know, these characters had been messed up by their parents, therefore understand them, forgive them. He wanted the audience to experience Frank and April as we were able to experience them as actors, and not put them in the past tense in any way.
Or as victims.
Or as victims, absolutely. They could not be victims.
All right, roll tape is another scene.
Frank, I have had the most wonderful idea. I've been thinking about it all day.
Baby, what's all this about?
Do you know how much money we have saved? Enough to live on for 6 months without you earning another dime. And with the money we could get from the house and the car, longer than that.
What we could get for the house? Sweetheart, what are you talking about? Where are we going to live?
Paris.
What?
You always said it was the only place you'd ever been that you wanted to go back to. The only place that was worth living. So why don't we go there?
You're serious?
Yes. What's stopping us?
What's stopping us? Well, I could think of a number of different things. For example, what kind of a job could I possibly get?
You won't be getting any kind of a job. Because I will.
Oh, right.
Don't laugh at me. Listen to me. Do you know what they pay for secretarial positions in government agencies in Europe?
No, I don't.
Listen, Frank, I'm serious about this. Do you think I'm kidding or something?
Okay, I just have a couple of questions is all. For one thing, what exactly am I supposed to be doing while you're out earning all this money?
Don't you see? That's the whole idea. You'll be doing what you should have been allowed to do 7 years ago. You'll have time. For the first time in your life, you'll have time to find out what it is that you actually want to do. And when you figure it out, you'll have the time and the freedom to start doing it.
So what's happened between the first scene we saw and the second scene?
Well, it's interesting because in the novel, there's a tremendous amount of dissatisfaction between the two characters once they've sort of settled into the suburbs. And she's tremendously unhappy there. I'm unhappy with my job. And a lot of that was stripped away in the movie because unless the audience was invested in this idea of Paris, this sort of idyllic dream that would solve all of their problems, and unless you saw how it sort of transformed their life and changed them, then the sort of spiral downwards wouldn't have been effective, I don't think. And of course, Paris ultimately is an illusion. I mean, Paris is, they could have gone there, who knows what would have happened, but to me, I think these people were sort of destined to be apart. That's what I feel anyway. I mean, we all have our own opinions about it, and we've talked about it, but it could be that one chance that could have resurrected their marriage, but I think that these were, like I said, two trains on way different tracks in life that just missed.
Do you disagree with any of that?
No, I'm just sitting here thinking, God, just everything you're saying is absolutely exactly the way that I feel. And yeah, absolutely. And when I think about those scenes right there, you know, the first scene that you saw is when they have just met. It's literally the night after they meet at a party for the first time, and she's talking about, you know, you should have been allowed to do what you wanted to do 7 years ago. You'll have time, you know. And she's talking about this period of time since they got married, since they started having children, and I think about the scenes towards the end of the film and just how, you know, they're like open wounds, both of them, you know, and and they're like throwing knives at each other practically, and they just get to a point where the unspoken tension between them, the things they've never had the chance to say to each other, just come out in the most venomous way. But it almost has to be that honest. They have to have that level of honesty and brutality with each other in order to just feel something and be heard. And I'm just struck by it watching these scenes again. You know, it's so real, isn't it? I mean, it is so real, that quest for happiness. And I look at April and I think, oh God, look at her. She is so excited by this idea of just change, possibility. It doesn't have to be like this. Come on, look at us. We always said that we were better than this. Let's be those people. Can't we? Can't we? Have we forgotten how to do that? It's so touching, you know, because it just, bless her little heart, it was never going to be.
But you also look at yourself and say, Jesus, Kate, you have, when you deal with material like this, you understand how it all can go wrong, and how you can get mired down. And then you look at yourself and say, on some scale, you know, I've touched all the right places,
well,
so to speak. I mean, you know, in terms of Sam, in terms of career, in terms of people you work with, in terms of life being some of what you wanted, or did you want something very differently?
Oh no, you know, I mean, the truth is that the career that I have and the life that I have, you know, this is not what I expected at all. I never expected any of this. I'm still.
So if you didn't have this, you wouldn't be disappointed.
No. I mean, you know, my nature is I'm a pretty positive person, you know. I can find inspiration in a cardboard box. You know, I've just always been one of those people, and I think Leo and I had the very similar upbringing, you know, very much kind of hand-to-mouth existence. You do whatever you can to make things work, and, you know, to have fun, you don't have to throw money at a situation. And so because I grew up like that, I don't need lots of things to make me happy. And I just am unbelievably blessed to know myself, you know, and the person that I'm married to, you know, just that feeling of to be known. It's so incredible to be known by that person, and the peace of mind that gives you, and the happiness
to have a
that comes
partner,
out of it.
To have a husband, to have someone that really gets you.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
I have to let you go. As you go, we'll show one more scene, and then Leo's going to stay with me and finish up this hour for this program. You have another preview of another movie.
Okay. It's weird.
So I say goodbye. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much indeed.
Oh my God, their faces. Oh God.
Oh, God.
You know what this is like, April? Honestly. Just talking like this, the whole idea of going off to Europe this way. This is the way I felt going up to the line the first time in the war. I mean, I was probably just as scared as everyone else, but inside I never felt better. I felt alive. I felt full of blood. I felt everything seemed more real. The guys in their uniforms, the snow on the fields, the trees, and all of us just walking. I mean, I was scared, of course, but I just kept thinking, this is it, you know? This is the truth.
I felt that way once, too.
When?
The first time you made love to me.
Here's a sense I have. You don't do this often. We ask frequently. I assume and that you choose to do it when there is material that you feel special about and that you like a lot and you want more people to know about.
That could be the case. Yes. But my attitude towards publicity in general has always been very bizarre. I've never quite... To me, you know, I have heroes. I have great heroes from the past that I felt always retained a level of mystery about their life. And that, for me, was all thrown out the window when I did the film Titanic. So when I did that movie, I realized it was never quite mystery. So, you know, and I think that is fundamentally truly important for an actor to be able to, like I was talking earlier, to suspend that disbelief. If you know way too many things intimately about a specific human being. They're not able to convey those characters realistically to an audience. You feel like, oh, that's not him, he's just acting, or they're nothing like that. And so, yes, I feel like when there is specific material that I feel deserves this type of forum, I do seize those moments, so you're right.
What is it you most want us to know about Frank? To see the character and not you.
Well, I can tell you what I love about him. And what I love about Frank is so often in this industry, like I was saying earlier, you're given characters that have some heroic element to them, something that defies the odds. And this is somebody that is, like I said, a product of their environment and just is a simple man. You know what I mean? He's a simple man who wants a simple life at the end of the day and wants to be told that he's a good husband. And I found it immediately. I related to him immediately. I really did. I related to his angst immediately. I mean, it's hard for me to identify more with the characters that do defy the odds, the heroic people that risk their life time and time again with some, some vigilant pursuit of justice. This is a man that is just trying to make things work.
Why is it harder and harder to identify with the heroics? Because you what?
Because I lead a life nowhere near that, my friend. I mean, I go to these sets and I get jobs and I research characters and I get paid money to be an actor. So it's I mean, there's obviously sometimes where you just do have an emotional connection to somebody, even if your life is nothing like them. And I remember sitting here talking with you about The Aviator and Howard Hughes, and I
larger than life.
That was one of those characters in my life where I felt like I felt a connection with the man. I felt that I needed to put this guy's life up on screen, and it was something that took eight years to sort of hone and get right. And but those things come few and far between, and they're less and less. Those possibilities are less and less, I think, in today's age of cinema. I really, it's hard to make movies like that. It really is.
Well, then that sort of relates to my question about how often you see material like this.
Not often.
Not often.
Not often at all. And I think there's going to be a wider gap between the sort of independent genre of filmmaking and the big budget sort of spectacle movies, and the movies that are a hybrid of those two things that have, real powerful emotional or deep content in them that are also have some scope are going to kind of dissolve away. I see that happening more and more in the industry. It's either like this is a regurgitation of films you've seen 1,000 times that work and are, sound for the studios, and this is what we're making. Or you could take a chance and do a really low-budget, small movie and see how it turns out. I feel like
that's the gap between either take a small-budget film and see how it turns out, or
less and less
spectacular, but nowhere in between in which you are enhancing
those types of movies
capacity to tell a story that's worth telling.
Those types of movies are becoming few and far between, yes.
Is it possible that you could take more risk in whatever way, back to even Frank's character, to see that you, because of whatever leverage and resource you have, to make those kind of movies?
That's what I'm trying to do.
You are.
I'm trying my best.
And how do you try to do it?
How do I try to do it? I mean,
looking for property, looking for...
Everything at the end of the day when you're making a movie starts with the material and how well written the script is. I've never seen a silk purse made from a sow's ear. I've never seen it happen wherein a crap script with crap characters, a director somehow found a way to make a masterpiece out of it. And that's the constant struggle that we all sort of have as actors, is finding those gems, and that's why people grab onto them like vultures. When you find a great piece of material or a great script, it's like... You should see what happens. It's like a piranha feeding fest. Everyone wants it.
Why then did it take 11 years to make this movie?
It wasn't a huge... I mean, although this was a cult novel and way ahead of its time, it wasn't one of those bestsellers. It was kind of those things, and a small group of people knew how special this novel was. And thank God the people that were involved in owning material waited.
Okay, but just help me understand how many of those in which, if the world or if smart people like you knew about, would be like piranhas trying to get to it. I mean, are there 4 or 5 pieces out there like that? I mean, do you have them?
I'm looking for one right now.
Looking for one.
Actively looking for a good piece of material.
Interesting. Yeah. With all that you have, you know, in a sense of clout. You're looking for an interesting piece of material.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And
So
I think a lot of people will tell you the same
I'm
thing.
sure they would. They do.
It's very difficult. I mean, I could go on and on about it, but it's just the simple truth. I mean, look at how many films have been done. Look at how many subjects have been taken on. You know, hopefully, as we progress into the future, we'll see cinema sort of take different turns, and I'm curious to see where it goes. But, you know, it's up to these sort of revolutionary new filmmakers and people coming up with new concepts and ideas, and that's what we're constantly waiting for. But also, it is a business at the end of the day, and studios will not finance certain projects. I mean, they'll take low risk with low-budget films and say, okay, this is a dark piece of material that not many people will go see. Here's a few $1 million to go make that.
We know that the ceiling it can reach is 30 million, 40 million.
But maybe it'll get an Oscar buzz, and more people will see it. Maybe we'll make some money, a little prestige. But I just feel like I've seen less and less of those sort of bigger budget films that actually have a tremendous amount of depth dissipate. That's what I've seen anyway.
Has acting turned out to be all that you wanted it to be?
It's incredible. It's incredible. You know, I never knew that I could do it as a career. I never knew. It was the first memory that I had. It's the first thing I can think of is saying, I want to be an actor to my parents. And if I hadn't lived in Los Angeles and been in such close proximity to sort of the mecca of movie making, if I didn't have parents that said, okay, we'll drive you to auditions, we didn't have the economic means to, you know, move camp from Idaho to Los Angeles because some snotty 10-year-old kid says, I want to be an actor. You know, we did it, and after school I got to go on auditions, but it was always, and I've said this before, it felt like an elite group of people, and it felt like I would never belong to them. So once I got the opportunity to, for example, get the movie This Boy's Life with Robert De Niro, I said, wow, now I'm able to I might be able to steer the course of my career. I might be able to have a career similar to these guys that I so admire. And that I knew at 15 years old was the biggest gift in the world, and that's never left me. You know, I've never that thirst or that hunger for wanting to give one great performance that I'm truly satisfied with, or be in one movie that I said, I love this film, is something that I don't know will ever be quenched. I don't know, and I think that's a good thing, because it keeps pushing you. You know, you're constantly dissatisfied. In other words.
But have you found it yet? I mean, do you think? In other words, do you have to live with the idea that it's not quite what I dream of doing? Not acting, but finding that performance, that character, that story.
It's only in
other words, you won't keep reaching for it if you think you found it.
Well, it's only in hindsight, really. I mean, you can't really appreciate anything you've ever done or any movie you've ever been in, for me, for minimum 5 years, because you're so attached to what it was like making the movie that you can't look at it from a from a different perspective. So I don't know. I don't know, but I do know that I still have that desire to make great movies.
You know what's interesting? There's a book out by Malcolm Gladwell, which is called Outliers. And it really is the story of looking at success and performance and talent. People have achieved something special. And it looks at the Beatles in terms of the phenomenon that they had being able to go somewhere and really have a chance to play for a long time. The idea also is that 10,000 people who become the best at something spend 10,000 hours practicing doing it. But it's about also the very point you said. You are sitting here because you had parents who lived in L.A., who were willing to make some sacrifice, who cared about you having a chance to pursue your dreams. But if you had grown up somewhere else with a different kind of parents, you might not be sitting here as Leo DiCaprio, one of America's and one of the world's best-known actors.
And that, in a combination with the fact that you have that one lucky moment. And that you can't discount. I mean, I don't care what anyone says, whether somebody has talent or not, whether they were destined for a certain career. If you don't get that one opportunity and you're not there at the right time to seize it and you didn't go for it, none of it would happen. I would not have the career I would have right now whatsoever, I don't think. I mean, it's all about a showcase or that ability to do that one thing that says, okay, now we'll allow you to do more movies. That's it. You know?
Now, was that Titanic or something else?
No, that was I think that was either This Boy's Life or Gilbert Grape.
Yeah, I was talking to Gilbert Grape. Yeah, right.
You know, if I didn't have I would have been very, very happy continuing doing television work. I would have loved it. You know, I would have been doing commercials and sitcoms. It would have been fine. Yeah. I mean, doing some theater. I was ecstatic to be an actor. Period. I was finally saying, "Wow, I can do this for a living. I don't need to have some other vocation and do this on the side." And that, you know, growing up in this industry, I know what a very special gift that is, because there's a lot of people that would love to be working actors and unfortunately aren't. And that's the bottom line for me, what I'm most happy with. This is all the cherry, this is the whipped cream and the walnuts and the cherry on the cake. Being able to choose your roles, all this stuff is like, you know, beyond. It really is.
Yeah, but when Gilbert Grape happened, did you see it, this is my option, this is my opportunity, I've got to be there for this because this could make all the difference in the world? Or did you simply say, man, this is a great role, I'm going to give it all I have?
Well, that was an interesting decision point. It's funny you bring that up because I don't want to do any big sob story about how I grew up and, you know, the financial background that I had, but to finally have an opportunity after This Boy's Life, that first movie that I did, there was another movie wherein I got offered more money than I could have ever imagined. And I was about to say yes to it, but there was actually something, and I'm kind of surprised in hindsight looking back as a 16, 17-year-old saying, wait a minute, there's this role here that is substantially less money, but I knew, and that all came from having watched these great movies in the past, that I knew I wanted to strive for doing something a little bit better. And I don't know where that came from. It's still really weird, because I should have taken that other role. You know what I mean? But I had these heroes. You know, I really had these heroes that I knew did certain types of movies.
Who were those heroes?
Oh, God, I mean, I remember watching, of course, James Dean as a young child as a young kid, as a 12, 13-year-old. Mitchum, of course. De Niro, of course. Hoffman. I mean, all these guys. I mean, endlessly watching their films. I mean, Monty Clift, of course. Of course, Brando, all these guys.
They all have something. There is a line there, though, that goes through all of them. I mean, it's part sort of clear talent, but it's also sort of, there was a kind of outlaw about all of them. Mm-hmm. There's a kind of sort of rebellion about all of them. Mm-hmm. Mitchum, you say, clearly Dean, clearly Brando. Mm-hmm. Talent, rebellion, outlaw. I mean, there is a certain, the people who appeal to you the most have a certain
outsider quality.
Yeah. Do you think of that?
I'm a bit of a rogue myself.
I see what you mean.
You know who the first one was, I think? I would think Cagney. Yeah. I think really Cagney. I remember watching Public Enemy with Scorsese, actually. He was screening it for one of the films that we did, and I said, wow, I mean, even predating Brando, this was a guy that came on screen and just, you know, threw all the rules out the window. I mean, Public Enemy was unbelievable, but I mean, he just lit up the screen, and it was violent, terrifying, it was scary, and he was, I think, the first in that lineage of that sort of actor studio, even predating Brando, I think. I don't know why I brought that up, but I forgot to mention him
because he was out of the list. Yeah. Here's what's interesting, and I'll close with this. It is this notion, you mentioned Marty, and showing films, and the idea. One of the things that I hope to do here, and he and I've talked about this, is to make more people beneficiary of this man's passion for movies and what he can show you and believes in. So
I have that same passion because I have never, ever, no film historian, no one that works at any museum, no cinema, genius that I ever have met that compares passion-wise and knowledge-wise to Martin Scorsese. I mean, the man is, I don't want to use the word obsessed, but he's consumed and lives and breathes cinema every day of his life, and everything is in his life is a reference to film. I mean, he looks at life through different eyes. I mean, he's emotionally connected to movies. Now it comes from his childhood, of course, but
when because of asthma or something, he had to sit in the theater and watch movies was his way of.
I mean, it is infused in his DNA, unlike anyone I've ever met. So I agree with you on that. I think they're, you know, that, and he has. I mean, he's done some pretty fantastic documentaries, his journey through Italian cinema, his journey through cinema, and he's done that. So it's about people, I think, reaching out and, you know, trying to tap into that knowledge because it's pretty extensive. He's offered it.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you, sir.
Great to see you.
Great to see you.
Thank you. Leonardo DiCaprio. The film opens December 26th, the day after Christmas. Thank you for joining us. See you next time.